A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Many children and young adults today struggle with resilience and maintaining a robust personality and emotional and mental strength. JC Action Sports, who deal with thousands of teenagers and young adults across Australia every year, do resilience courses in school. So I've asked the boys to come back into the studio today and tell us how we can build resilience in our kids. JC Action Sports, welcome back to 2020.
It's awesome to be back. Thanks so much for having us. We're really excited.
It's not boys in the hood, it's boys from the hood, but the boys from the hood are in the studio today. And I really want to talk about this topic of resilience. But before we do, you guys have just come from a school. Tell us what happened in the school today.
Yeah, so we're all over at the Gold Coast in Emmanuel College, and we had the blessing to be able to share the gospel to just under 2,000 students this morning before 10 a.m., which is better than coffee for a wake-up call. And it was just an amazing opportunity to get into the school, to do what we love, to show off and have a heap of fun using our skills, riding the BMX. Jack was rapping, and we were able to share a bit of our stories, our testimonies, and just encourage and pray for the kids. And really great response from the kids there, and both secondary and junior, which is the best. Like, I love having the cross-section of the teenagers and the junior school kids.
Yeah.
And just an amazing morning.
It is amazing. 2,000 kids before 10 a.m. It's better than a quad shot of coffee, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah.
And but you know, you go into schools and you teach kids and encourage kids in lots of different areas, and one of them is resilience. And it's so important today because it's no one's fault. It's not our children's fault or our teenagers' faults, but they don't seem to be as resilient as those kids that 100 years ago who just seemed a little bit more robust in their personalities and their mental and emotional strength. And there's many parents listening today, Josh. So how can we help our kids build resilience? It's $1 million question, but I'd love to hear your answer.
Yeah, and there's this is not going to be comprehensive in any means. And we're going to use a lot of generalizations today, but they are things that we use to help kids grow and develop resilience. I think it's important to acknowledge that resilience isn't something you can do for someone else. It's something they have to foster and develop on their own. It's not something that you can build for your own children. It's something you have to teach them to steer into. And naturally, I think we've got to acknowledge that when we're talking about resilience, we are wired for comfort. When we look at all of the stuff with our brains, and even Dr. Caroline Leaf will actually talk about this stuff in some of her books and stuff, that we will always steer away from difficulty naturally towards what we perceive as safety. But when we're developing resilience, it's quite the opposite. You actually want to steer into a little bit of the angst, a little bit of the discomfort, a little bit of the hard stuff, because pain is a process that actually teaches us more than comfort ever will.
Man, now hang on, that's a hashtag moment right there.
Yeah.
Pain is a process that teaches us way more than comfort ever will.
Yeah, it actually has a purpose. You know, pain has a purpose, and it's the process that teaches us. It's the process that helps us walk into maturity. As a BMX rider, we say, you know, we crash a lot. Like, I've been riding for 20 odd years. I've crashed far more than I've landed tricks. But the way we look at it is I haven't failed at that. I've learned 1,000 ways of how not to do that. And sometimes it only takes 1,001 tries to figure out just how you do it. But the importance is that you don't give up, that you actually keep going. So one of the principles we teach kids in schools is that you actually have a choice, that difficulty is inevitable, that everybody is going to have a moment in time in life where they go, you know what, stuff this, I've had enough, I'm out. I just want to give up, I want to pack up, I want to quit. And I've been there 1,000,000 times on the bike, but that doesn't teach you anything. In fact, that stops the growth there. And if you just give up when things get hard, you actually miss out on the best bit.
Yeah. So I'm just going to stop you. So it sounds like you think today a lot of us parents, and I'm a parent, that we've tried to shield our kids too much from danger and potential hardship and give them a good life. Do you think that accidentally or unintentionally we have shielded our kids too much from hardship so they haven't built that resilience?
Well, yeah, if you think about 100 years ago, there wasn't a lot of shielding, was there?
No.
You know, and there are things as a parent, I'm a parent myself, that you do definitely need to shield and protect your kids from. But there's also times where you've got to let them learn through the process. Again, I speak a lot about BMX because that's my experience. That's the inevitable part of the process, is you learn by trying and failing. And so I think as parents, and particularly, I used to be a youth pastor as well and a chaplain, the most important part for young people learning is creating a safe space to try and fail. If you are constantly feeling like you're unsafe, you won't try, because you're actually in fight mode or flight mode all the time. And even science will back this up. Neuroscience says that if you are in fight mode or flight mode, you cannot learn. You are unreceptive to learning.
Oh, wow.
So if you feel safe, you can learn, you can grow, you can connect with others, you can connect with God. But if you feel unsafe, you instantly lose that ability. So for parents, creating a safe environment for young people to learn and grow through trying things and failing. And obviously there's things that, you're not going to let your kid jump off the roof. That's just silly. But even with relationships, quickly, me as a parent, I have multiple kids. The thing that I feel like I need to do straight away is work out the argument. But the children don't learn. They don't learn social cueing if you figure it out for them. They learn that dad's going to step in and fix it. But what happens if you let them work it out themselves? Then they've actually grown. Then they've actually learned something. So by giving up or by stepping in sometimes too early, we actually rob an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And as you were talking, I was just thinking too, in sport, so many parents these days, it's almost like just win. It's all about winning. And we've bred, I think some kids are really bad losers now as well, because when they don't win an event or a sporting competition, they see that as a big failure. But, we both know, mate, we've all played sport. You don't win every time. But, sport for me is a development tool. It develops, discipline, training, teamwork, listening to your coach, enjoying something. Yeah. These are the things we should be teaching in kids' sport, isn't it? But it's sadly, I've gone to a lot of sporting events. My kids have been very sporty growing up. Yeah. And so many parents just seem to be just all about winning. And they get angry at the ref when the calls go against them. And maybe as parents too, we need to maybe educate our kids about the meaning of sport as well, that it's about just getting in, having a crack, doing your best, being part of the team, listening to the coach. And hey, you might win, you might lose, but either way, it's a good day.
The real win is gaining experience and growing in wisdom. The real win is playing 1,000 games, not 2, and giving up. I've been doing this for 20 years and I still keep coming back because I love it and I get to use it to help and encourage others. But there's been so many times, like I've been laying on the ground after crashing really hard and I've just wanted to stop. But there's that choice you've got to make. And the way we say it at JC is you've got to choose to rise above, because you have greater potential than the challenges you face. You're more than your circumstances. You're more than where you're from. You're more than your past. And that's when Jesus enters into our lives. He tells us that. He reminds us that. And he calls us to be more and to use that stuff to help others. And so if we could just get stuck, if we just give up in the middle of the pain, in the middle of the hurt, and we never get past that, we never overcome it, it's like resurrection. If Jesus stayed in the grave and never overcame death, we would have lost out on so much. See, death never has a final say. And that's the mentality I take towards BMX, is the crash never gets the final word. Even if I don't get back up and ride that day, you never let it win. And for our young people, having that sort of mentality of that defeat isn't final. If there's no good that's come from it yet, God's not done with it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up until he has the final say.
I love that. And have we got any other thoughts on resilience from our co-host here today, or our co-guest?
I just, I think it's really important, that we do get back up. This is my first time, sort of being involved with JC, and being even not like super confident on the microphone, but having their encouragement. And I suppose, not always getting it right, or like not having enough hype, or like building the crowd. But instead of getting like really like beat down, it's sort of just enough just to, I suppose, have that resilience and and keep coming back. Which is a learning thing for me as well. And I'm super blessed to be involved with JC Action Sports. I used to watch these guys back in 2012 or 2013 when Josh Fountain would actually jump the half pipe, grind the handrail on the back, and then 360 back in or something insane.
Yeah.
So it's a massive blessing for me to now be involved in something that I really looked up to. I actually got him to sign my autograph on one of the JC Epidemic hats back in the day when it was JC Epidemic. And now, sort of being on tour with him has just been super amazing. It's, it's such a God thing. And I'm super blessed to be a part of it for sure.
It is, mate. And you look like a rock star too. You actually look like the Rock.
I love it.
He just looks like the Rock, I think. Well, and I'm sure my staff, my colleagues at Vision would agree with me. But I want to talk about the spiritual aspect to resilience, because you made me think of something when you talk about Jesus. The Bible says he endured the cross for the joy. How can we use our faith, and how can we encourage our kids to use their faith to also go through tough times, Josh?
Yeah, if you think about a boat, right, and there's that classic scripture that hope is an anchor for the soul. It's the immovable. It's that thing that holds you steady when everything around you seems like it's shifting.
Yeah.
And the question is, when you've got an anchor, the boat is held by that, right? Now, from the boat's perspective, does it still see the waves? If you think about it, yeah, of course it does. It would still be getting slapped up the side of the bow.
Yeah.
The people on the boat would be freaking out.
Yeah.
They'd be having a horrible time. The boat would feel like it's shifting up and down and getting moved around, but does it drift? No. So the anchor is what holds you in place. And that's what faith is. That's what relationship with Jesus Christ is for us in difficulty. Yeah. That when everything around us feels like it's shifting, we stand immovable, unshakable.
Yeah.
And if we cling onto faith in him, that he will sustain us through. Another scripture says, though outwardly we fade away, inwardly we are renewed day by day by his Spirit. And you think about the Bible, you think about heroes of the faith. My personal one, the most resilient person, I believe, potentially in the whole Bible is Joseph.
Yeah.
That dude couldn't get stuck. He gets sold by his brothers into slavery. He goes and becomes a slave in a master's house. He has such an excellent spirit about him, such a can-do attitude that he gets promoted all the way to the top. He's in charge of the whole estate, and then someone simply lies about him. So he gets thrown in jail. The dude doesn't lose that tenacity, doesn't lose that passion. It's like the scripture that says, doing all things as if unto God.
Yeah.
Everything he did with excellence and with passion and with that inward strength that only comes from a deep relationship with God. He knew who he was. And he then ingratiates himself so much, becomes so important in the prison through being so excellent, that he's in charge of the prison. Helps some people out. They forget about him. If anybody had an excuse to have a bad attitude and give up, and it would have been Joseph. And in the end of the story, I'm sure people can follow on in their Bible in Genesis and read the rest of it. It's amazing. But he ends up being vindicated and even being restored in relationship with his family. But that process was necessary for him to become the man that he dreamt of when he was a child and was ridiculed for. But he was so resilient. And the only thing I can think of that kept him there is that faith.
Yeah.
He knew his value, he knew his identity, and he knew his purpose. And they're actually the three things neurologically that science is now saying, they're backing up what we know from Scripture, are intrinsic to strong, confident human beings. That we need to know our value.
Yep.
And that from our value, you are loved, that you develop your sense of identity and purpose. We also know from being a youth worker that is developed in young people between the age of 0 and 5. Your sense of value, predominantly, the majority of that is shown to young people between the ages of 0 to 5.
Incredible.
So love on your toddlers.
Yeah.
But you think about Joseph. Man, he knew his value.
Yeah.
And everywhere he went, he excelled because he knew his value. And that fed into his identity. It didn't matter what happened around him. He still had a clear sense of purpose. He knew who he was and he had a clear sense of purpose. So he had the anchor, right?
Yeah.
You think back to that boat picture that I was talking about.
Yeah.
No matter what changed around him, he was still held strong, firm, and unmovable.
So good. His faith, and as I said, God gave him a dream, and his dad loved him as a kid. And so good. You guys are amazing. I can't wait to focus on another topic with you. We've been hitting resilience today, and I want to thank you so much for coming in today. So this, everyone, is JC Action Sports. You can find them online. Josh, what's the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, so you can jump on our website, jcactionsports.com.au, or you can jump on social media.
Awesome. And these guys are available for appearances at youth groups, churches, schools, colleges, universities, Parliament House, you name it. You got a gathering. The boys from the hood will be there on their BMX bikes, trail bikes, scooters probably, I don't know, skateboards. They got it all going on. But hey, honestly, guys, such a blessing today. I want to really thank you for coming in again today, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us, and bless everybody listening today.
Thank you so much. Bless you all.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.